List of Red Dwarf episodes. This is interesting. Oh boy, this is going to be a long one. Oh, no. Okay. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Red Dwarf is a British comedy TV series which primarily comprises 12 series and a feature length special of a television science fiction sitcom that aired on BBC Two between 1988 and 1993, and from 1997 to 1999, and on Dave in 2009 and 2012, and from 2016 to the present, gaining a cult following. The series was created by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. The first 6 series were written by Grant and Naylor, while series 7 and 8 were written by Naylor with collaborations from other writers, and series 9 to 12 and the 2020 special The Promised Land were written by Naylor alone. Series 1 and 2 were produced by Paul Jackson Productions, with Grant Naylor Productions taking over from Series 3 for BBC North, and a broadcast on BBC Two. Red Dwarf first aired on 15th of February 1988 and ended its original run on BBC Two, by then rebranded BBC Two. Okay. On 5th of April 1999, after 8 series, with some PBS stations in the US airing the entire 8th series earlier on the 7th of March, from 2000... What? Okay. From 2009, Grant Naylor Productions produced new episodes for UK TV, which were broadcast on the TV channel Dave. The series follows the fortunes of Dave Lister, who is stranded 3 million years in the future together with the hologrammatic representation of his former bunkmate and immediate supervisor Arnold Rimmer, a creature known only as Cat, and the ship's computer Holly. During Series 2, the crew encountered a mechanoid called Crichton, who joins them from Series 3 onwards. In Series 4, the Red Dwarf ship has been stolen from the crew, forcing them to travel in the smaller Starbug craft for 2 series. Starbug. In Series 7, Christine Kochansky, Lister's former love interest, joins the crew, following the departure of Rimmer. In Series 8, the entire crew of the Red Dwarf ship, including a pre-accident Rimmer, are resurrected, but the Starbug crew, along with Rimmer, find themselves sentenced to 2 years in the ship's brig for abusing classified information. Series 9, Red Dwarf Back to Earth, involves Lister, Rimmer, back as a hologram, Cat, and Crichton, hallucinating that they've returned to Earth in another dimension in the early 21st century. Series 10 to Series 12 see the same 4 crew members continue their adventures back on Red Dwarf, Chansky having departed due to Lister's descent in depression, Holly offline due to water damage. A backup of Holly is installed in the Promised Land. As of 9th of April 2020, 74 episodes of Red Dwarf have been aired, including one special, including the 12th series. There's your... I guess Series 9 is Back to Earth. There's your series. Reading all of those dates. Go. Each series only has 6 episodes for most part. 7 has 8. 8 has 8. Back to Earth has 3. Last. Okay. Okay. So here's where I... the shit. Okay. Red Dwarf 1, 1988. Pilot script was written in 1983. The writing duo of Team Grant and Naylor handed the finished script to their agent Paul Jackson, who had trouble convincing the BBC to take on the series. 3 years after the initial rejections, the script was accepted by BBC Northwest. The series almost did not happen due to an electrician strike at the BBC in 1987, which prevented filming, and thus the project was shelved. Filming eventually went ahead after the industrial action was resolved. A remastered version of this series was produced and broadcast in some countries. Alright, so the first episode is The End, directed by Ed Bye, on 15th of February 1988. And here's a plot, I guess, summary of it. In the 23rd century, I hope you didn't want spoilers. Well, too late. In the 23rd century, Slavish technician Dave Lisher, a crew member of the Jupiter Mining Corporation vessel Red Dwarf, is placed into suspended animation for 18 months as a punishment for smuggling aboard an unquarantined pregnant cat. However, the ship's computer Holly is forced to keep him in stasis until 3 million years later after a radiation disaster wipes out the crew. Although initially alone, he soon discovers that he has company in the form of his austere and petty bunkmate, Arnold Rimmer, kept alive as a hologram, and a humanoid called Cat, an evolved descendant of Lister's cat, which had safely avoided all the disaster in the ship's hold. Episode 2, Future Echoes. Directed by Ed By, written by those two. On the 20, and it aired, I guess it aired the first time? Yeah, aired first time on 22nd of February 1988. The new crew of Lister, Rimmer, and Cat learn that Red Dwarf has been steadily accelerating for 3 million years. When it reaches light speed, they will soon begin to experience future echoes. Visions of the future that have yet to happen. That is the definition of the future. Lister is soon shocked when he discovers he will die in the future while making repairs to the ship. Till further echoes reveal a much more shocking truth about his future. Episode 3, Balance of Power, directed by Ed Nye, written by those two, aired on 29th of February 1988. Lister wants to go on a date with the hologram of his former love interest navigation officer Christine Kochansky. However, this would mean replacing Rimmer as the ship's hologram, which of course he will not let happen due to being a higher rank than his bunkmate. Lister decides to take a cooking exam so he can become a chef, as this will allow him to hold sufficient rank to overrule Rimmer's objections, forcing his friend to try to do anything to discourage him. Episode 4, Waiting for God, directed by Ed Nye, written by those two, aired first on March 7th, 1988. Red Dwarf stumbles upon one of its own garbage pods, and Rimmer is convinced that it's a stasis capsule carrying a dormant alien woman. While he's distracted, Lister learns more about cat species, Felis sapiens, and discovers how his actions involving the cat he smuggled has made him a mythical legend amongst cat's people, including the last surviving member in the bowels of the ship. Okay. Episode 5, Confidence and Paranoia, directed by Ed By, written by those two, aired on 14th of March 1988. Lister contracts a form of mutated pneumonia virus, which causes the hallucinations of his fevered brain to materialize in solid form. Soon the ship is set by bizarre events, including herring rain, an exploding 16th century mayor of Warsaw, before culminating in the personifications of his confidence and paranoia. Rimmer soon suspects this could cause trouble. What? I feel like this went from 0 to 11. Okay. Episode 6, Me Squared, directed by Ed By, written by those two, and aired first on 21st March of 1988. Rimmer creates his perfect companion, an ideal holographic duplicate of himself, and moves out of his quarters to share a room with them. Although Lister is happy about this, he soon finds that the Rimmers despise each other and can't agree to coexist. Faced with this prospect of deleting one of them, Lister decides to review his bunkmate's past and discovers an embarrassing secret in the process. Cool. Red Dwarf 2, 1988. Realizing that they were limited with stories based on the huge but empty mining ship of Red Dwarf, writers Grant and Naylor decided to go in a different direction for Series 2. A small shuttle ship, Blue Midget, wow, was designed to ferry the crew to and from different locations. The mechanoid, Crichton, appeared in the first episode as a one-off. The writers had resisted using robot characters as they had considered the practice a sci-fi cliché. A remastered version of the series was produced and broadcast in some countries. All right. The first episode of season 2, or yeah, Crichton, directed by Ed By, written by those two. Original release date was 6th of September 1988. Red Dwarf intercepts an SOS distress call from the American space cruiser Nova 5, which has crashed on an asteroid. Much to their disappointment, the crew, who are expecting to find female crew members, and the only survivor is Crichton, David Ross, I guess is his actor, a service mechanoid with an overactive guilt chip. Lister wants to teach Crichton to be rebellious, while Rimmer wants to abuse Crichton's servility. Episode 2, Better Than Life, directed by Ed By. Written by those two. Original release date of 13th of September 1988. A post-pod carrying 3 million-year-old bag of mail arrives, containing a total immersion computer game called Better Than Life, which makes the player's wishes come true. The group swiftly begin to play it for their own enjoyment until Rimmer's neurotic brain fittingly begins to rebel against the fantasy, unable to accept things going right for him, and turn it into a nightmare for all of them. Episode 3. The crew wake up after celebrating... Oh, sorry. Thanks for the Memory, directed by Ed By, aired on 20 September 1988. The crew wake up after celebrating the anniversary of Rimmer's death, only to find 4 whole days have passed that they have no memories of, including Holly. Seeking answers, the group then soon learns that the chip's black box was buried on a remote moon. Recovering it to access missing CCTV footage, they slowly learn why it was buried and when they find out what they did in the missing 4 days. Alright. Episode 4, Stasis Leak. Aired on 27th of September 1988. Time portal called a stasis leak is found on floor 16, and it takes the crew back in time on Red Dwarf 3 million years earlier. To a point 3 weeks before the disaster which killed the rest of the crew. Rimmer tries to change the past by putting himself into suspended animation so that he does not die in the radioactive disaster. Lister has similar plans for Kochansky. Episode 5, Queeg. When Holly... aired on 4th of October 1988. When Holly allows a meteorite to damage the ship and cause Rimmer's hologram to malfunction, the crew lose faith in him. Red Dwarf's backup computer, Queeg 500, acted by Charles Oggins, soon takes command and runs the ship like a military garrison, much to the crew's dislike. Despite their misgivings, Holly agrees to challenge Queeg to a contest, in which the loser gets erased from the system. Episode 6, Parallel Universe, aired on 11th of October 1988. The crew tests Holly's new invention, the Holly Hop Drive, only to find Red Dwarf entering an alternate parallel dimension consisting of female versions of themselves. Cat, however, finds his parallel counterpart is a male being called Dog. While killing time until Holly's invention can take them home, Lister makes the unwise decision to sleep with his counterpart. Oh, not knowing what it will mean for him. Okay, Red Dwarf 3, 1989. With Grant and Naylor directly involved with the series production under Grant Naylor Productions and a larger budget, they radically changed the look of the show. The opening credits sequence was changed. A new upbeat version of the theme tune played over the clips from the series. A new official Red Dwarf logo also appeared at the end of the credit sequence. Starbug was introduced as the new spaceship in place of Blue Midget. The look of the series had been overhauled with the incoming Mel Bibby, who had redesigned the old gray sets. Costumes were overhauled too, as designer Howard Burden brought in a new stylish look to the crew. A remastered version of this series was produced and broadcast in some countries. There were a number of loose ends from the first 2 series and changes in the 3rd series, but that were explained off by a text intro to the first show of Series 3. This was done in the form of scrolling text across outer space in a parody of the introductions to the Star Wars movies. Loose ends included the return of Crichton, Lister being pregnant, okay, delivering twins Jim and Bexley, who grow up in a matter of days, then wind up in the parallel universe with the female version of Lister. The regular cast changed from Series 3. Robert Llewellyn came in as Crichton, and Hetty Highridge replaced the departing Lovett as Holly. Craig Charles, Chris Barry, and Danny Jean-Jules remained as Lister, Rimmer, and Cat, respectively. The character of Crichton was originally intended to be a one-off appearance in the Series 2 episode Crichton, as we covered already, but it returned mainly to broaden the story potential. The series was becoming difficult to write for. At the insistence of Naylor, Crichton returned to complete the team. They had approached David Ross with the intention of bringing him back to play the regular role of Crichton, but Ross has committed to the stage play A Flea in Her Ear and was thus not available. Eventually, Grant and Naylor went to see Robert Llewellyn in the stage production Mammon, Robot Born of a Woman, playing a robot. They saw his performance and were impressed. This is long. Episode 1, Backwards. Release date of 14th of November 1989. Crichton, now a regular member of the crew, Rimmer takes him on a flying lesson in the transport vehicle Starbug. But during the lesson, both find themselves encountering a time hole, which takes them back to Earth in 1993. However, they soon discover everything is backwards, including the flow of time. With little choice, the pair are forced to find work until Lister and Cat can track them down. Episode 2, Marooned, aired on 21st November of 1989. The crew abandons ship as Holly sees 5 black holes in the direct flight path of Red Dwarf. How the fuck? In the midst of their evacuation, Rimmer and Lister find themselves marooned on an ice planet after Starbug is struck by a meteoroid. Lister is soon freezing and starving, but the only firewood is his beloved guitar and Rimmer's prized possessions, and the only food left is a can of dog food and a pot noodle. Lister's most hated food. Episode 3, Polymorph. The crew become radically different people after they encounter a polymorph, a genetically engineered shape-changing mutant that feeds on negative emotions. In the crew's case, vanity, guilt, anger, and fear. They decide that there are only 2 options against the polymorph. 1, take it on, or 2, run away. 2 has always been Cat's favorite number anyways. Episode 4, Body Swap. Aired on 5th of December 1989. After witnessing Holly perform a mind swap on Lister to tackle an emergency, Rimmer suggests he and Lister undergo the procedure so he can help his bunkmate get healthy through a vigorous exercise routine. However, Rimmer is overtaken with excitement at the prospect of having a physical body again and refuses to give it back to Lister. Episode 5, Time Slides. Crichton is shocked to discover that the developing fluid in Red Dwarf's photo labs has mutated, causing still pictures to come to life. Realizing they can enter any photograph developed in the fluid and effectively time travel anywhere they want, Lister opts to take advantage of this and change his life so that he does not get stranded in deep space. Note, guest stars Ruby Wax, who at the time was the wife of the series director, Ed By. Okay. Episode 6. The Last Day. Crichton receives word that his replacement Hudson 10 Gordon Kennedy from Diva Droid International, the company that created both of them, is on its way to Red Dwarf. Lister, annoyed by this, decides the crew should hold a leaving party for him. But the experience Crichton has is so memorable that he swiftly decides he wants to live rather than be dismantled and shut down. Red Dwarf 4. Due to the old studio in Manchester undergoing refurbishment, the recording of Series 4 moved to Shepperton Studios. The broadcast was not as originally intended. The BBC had decided to start off with the romantic story of Camille for Valentine's Day. While the outbreak of the Gulf War affected the series' running order, thus both the anti-war meltdown and heroic Ace Rimmer's Dimension Joke were almost postponed. Okay. Episode 1. Camille. Lister helps Crichton to break his programming so that he can lie and insult. Later, when Crichton rescues a mechanoid named Camille, the sole survivor from a crashed spaceship, he appears to be his perfect mechanoid partner. However, Rimmer and Lister also see their fantasy women when they see Camille. Secrets, lies, and broken hearts ensue, along with an ending similar to Lister's favorite film, Casablanca. Episode 2, DNA. A mysterious derelict spacecraft containing extremely advanced technology, perhaps alien, docks with Red Dwarf. On board, they discover a DNA modifier, a genetic altering machine that can metamorphose organic light. But havoc ensues as Lister gets turned into a chicken and then a hamster. Crichton becomes human, and a curry monster is created from Lister's vindaloo. Episode 3 is Justice. The crew pick up an escape pod bearing a woman's name. There's also the possibility it may in fact be a deranged biomechanical killer on its way to Justice World, a deep space penal station. They decide to go to Justice World to discover the contents of the pod. Things become worse when a justice scan reveals that Rimmer is guilty of the radioactive disaster that wiped out the entire crew of Red Dwarf, equal to 1,167 counts of second-degree murder, and he is promptly convicted and sentenced. Episode 4, White Hole. Holly has her intelligence briefly restored to an IQ of 12,368, but a side effect of this is that her runtime is reduced to minutes. Holly promptly switches herself off, leaving Red Dwarf with no lighting or maneuvering capability. It's basics for the crew, and they must resort to their own resourcefulness to survive. Episode 5, Dimension Jump. The crew meet a parallel dimension version of Rimmer. Arnold Ace Rimmer is a dashing daredevil test pilot for the Space Corps, and he's been assigned to test pilot a ship that can travel through dimensions so that he can meet different versions of himself. He enters our dimension to meet our Rimmer, the weaselly, cowardly version who has gone on a fishing holiday with the rest of the crew. Episode 6, Hold Down. Crichton uses a prototype matter paddle to teleport the crew to a nearby planet with an S3 or Earth-like atmosphere. They discover the planet has been visited by humans years previously, who populated the planets with wax droids, animated wax works of famous characters from Earth's journey, including Albert Einstein, Marilyn Monroe, Gandhi, Winnie the Pooh, Mother Teresa, and Elvis Presley, who have now gone berserk and are at war. I got the fucking longest article I've ever gotten right now. This is a British TV show from the 80s about fucking something, dude. It's about people being stranded on a mining ship, and I don't know how the fuck all this keeps happening. I don't know. There's 12 seasons of this, and I'm only on season 5. How long have I been going for? I've been going for 25 minutes.
It's a long page.
This is gonna be a long one. Oh shit. Maybe I might have to do this in double. I might have to do this in multiple recordings. Yeah.
It's just a-
It's going to be. It's going to be longer. Stupid. Who thought this was a good idea? Well, yeah. So there's also I've gotten 3 long ones today. I mean longer. I mean I got 7 minutes and 13 minutes. And then now on this one. Uh yeah. Well, so far this one. Oh, probably not this. This is just the episode listing for the TV show. So, if there's an episode listing for something like General Hospital, that shit's been going on since 1960 something. I This is like the first thing I've gotten besides like mathematical chemistry that I knew something about. um because my English teacher in senior year talked about this, showed us some of it. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Series 5. The series returned without regular director Ed By, who had agreed to direct the full wax, fronted by his wife Ruby Wax. New director Juliet May found it hard to work with the science fiction elements, which were much more involved and complex than in the previous series, and left before the series had completed. The remaining episodes were directed by those two. Alright, Title 1, directed by Juliet May. Rimmer is abducted by holograms of superior intelligence and taken to a space vessel which itself is holographic. There, Rimmer has a physical presence, and twice daily sex is a health requirement, but emotional attachment is bad manners. Rimmer applies to join the crew, feeling that this is his chance of becoming an officer and getting a life. To do this, he must pass an exam against a fellow hologram, which is complicated when he discovers his opponent is Nirvana Crane, acted by Jane Horrocks, a female hologram who's fallen form. Episode 2. The Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is a time-traveling android who acts as a judge and jury and executioner to those who have led worthless lives, and thus erases them for history. The Red Dwarf crew are next to appear before this judge to justify their existence. It does not look good for a crew of slobs, failures, and misfits. Okay. Episode 3. Terraform. Crichton and Rimmer crash land on a Psi moon, an artificial planetoid which terraforms itself to match the inner psyche and subconscious of anyone who lands on it. Crichton is trapped under wreckage from the crash, and Rimmer finds himself alone and taken prisoner by the manifestations of his own inner demons. Lister, Cat, and Holly arrive to rescue them. They find themselves trapped in an environment shaped by Rimmer's bizarre, self-loathing mind. Episode 4. Quarantine. After investigating an abandoned biological research complex on an ice planet, Lister, Cat, and Crichton return to Red Dwarf only to find that Rimmer has taken over the ship, while Rimmer orders them into quarantine for 3 months. He himself is slowly taken over by an electric holovirus that corrupts his holographic form, giving him telekinesis, hex vision, and many other powers, and turning him completely insane. Episode 5. Demons and Angels. An experiment with a machine, a triplicator, that can make duplicates of an object goes wrong, causing Red Dwarf to explode. Okay. The crew escape aboard Starbug, but finds that the triplicator has made 2 copies of the Red Dwarf in place of the original. One of those copies has extracted the good qualities of the former Vestal, and the other has extracted the bad ones. The crew aboard one, first meeting angelic versions of themselves, then to the other, meeting their demonic versions. Episode 6. Back to reality. The crew takes Starbug down to the watery depths of an ocean planet to investigate the wreck of the SSS Esperanto. Where have I heard that? They find that the ship's crew have committed suicide, then try escape to avoid attack from a sea monster, the Despair Squid. This crew suddenly wake up to find that they are not who they think they are. Red Dwarf and Starbug did not exist, and they have in fact been playing a virtual reality computer game for 4 years. Okay. Writing of Series 6 was rushed due to the fact that the BBC wanted the episodes completed as soon as possible. Grant and Naylor had originally hoped to both write and direct Series 6, but the rapid production schedule meant this was unfeasible, and Andy DeEmony was brought in to direct the series. The writers decided to make changes for the new series. Red Dwarf was written out, thus removing Hattie Hayridge's Holly. The series set was entirely on board Starbug. During the series, Rimmer would also obtain Hardlight, which would effectively give him a physical presence. For the first time in series history, a story arc was introduced and followed throughout the episodes, leading up to the series cliffhanger. Okay, Sirens, Episode 1. 200 years after investigating the SSS Esperanto, the crew awake from suspended animation above Starbug with amnesia and find that their mothership Red Dwarf is missing. Chasing a faint vapor trail which may lead to their mothership, the crew traveled through an asteroid field containing lost and crashed spaceships. The asteroid field is inhabited by sirens, genetically enhanced creatures that telepathically lure the ship's crew into the asteroid so that they can suck out their brains. Why? Episode 2, Legion. Chasing the vapor trail of Red Dwarf into a gas nebula, Starbug is taken over by a tractor beam which takes it to a space station. There, the crew discover Legion, a highly intelligent, sophisticated, and cultured life form conceived out of an experiment by a group of famous scientists. It is Legion who modifies Rimmer's hollow projection unit, enabling him to become a hard light hologram. His jacket goes from red soft light to blue and hard light. It is a result he is able to touch, feel, eat, and experience pain, but still being made of light and cannot be physically harmed. That's overpowered. They learn that Legion is composed from the minds of each member of the crew, combined and magnified, and as such they are sustaining his very existence with their presence. Legion will not allow them to leave and continue the search for the Red Dwarf. Episode 3. Starbug narrowly wins a battle with rogue stimulants, but the simulants have infected Starbug with a computer virus, and the ship is locked on a collision course with a volcanic planet. Crichton attempts to fight the virus, the battle taking the form of an old Wild West movie in his digital mind. The virus overtakes him, so Lister, Cat, and Rimmer enter Crichton's Wild West dream using an artificial reality video game in an attempt to help Crichton come up with an antidote. Okay, Emo Hawk. Polymorph 2 is episode 4. It's a fucking weird name. Starbug is attacked by an advanced Space Corps enforcement probe for looting from derelict ships. The crew managed to escape by entering Jelf space, but Starbug crashes on a moon. Lister must marry the Jelf captain's daughter in exchange for an oxygen breathing suit. The crew escape with the engine part during Lister's honeymoon, but the Jelf chieftain sends his pet, a polymorph, after them to receive his new son-in-law. Episode 5. Rimmer World. The crew return to the wreck of the Simulant's battleship to salvage for food supplies, but are confronted by a surviving Simulant who threatens to kill herself and the crew. The Rimmer, who has been diagnosed with a severe tense nervous disorder, escapes in a pod which has no steering and is whisked away through a wormhole and crashes on a planet. The crew follow Rimmer through the wormhole, but due to his effects, arrive at the planet 600 years after Rimmer arrived, only to find the planet is populated with thousands of Rimmer clones. And then episode 6, Out of Time. Starbug enters an artificial fog containing devices that create false realities. Persevering through it, the crew find what it is hiding, a time machine. Shortly after, they meet their future selves from 15 years later. The crew learn that their future selves are incredibly corrupt and amoral through abuse of the time drive to experience the very best of history. In the end, the two Starbug craft engage in a space battle to end all space battles. Red Dwarf 7. After Series 6 ended, co-creator and writer Rob Grant decided to leave the series to pursue other projects, but Naylor continued with the series to build towards the often discussed movie, and the series was expanded to 8 episodes to meet the US syndication requirements. To help with expanding episode number, Naylor brought in the help of other writers such as Paul Alexander. Chris Baer, disappointed with the hectic workload of Series 6, had decided to only take part in 4 of the episodes. Chansky, now played by Chloe Annett, was brought back as a regular character. Changes to the series itself were evidence of with the mix of the science fiction and sitcom episodes throughout. This was an attempt by Naylor to move away from the monster of the week formula that he felt Series 6 suffered from. Ed Bye also returned to direct the series after leaving due to scheduling classes during Series 5 and 6. The studio audience was now removed from the series, and much like feature-length films, the episodes were mostly shot using one camera. Episodes were still videotaped, but were digitally processed to look like film. Although there was no live audience, a laughter track was later recorded at a screening of the episodes before an audience. The laughter track is only present on some episodes shown on the streaming device Netflix as of 2020. I bet it's not on Netflix anymore. Get some water. I'm thirsty. Take out to ride. The crew find themselves resurrected due to the time paradox resulting from the battle with their future. The time paradox also results in a greatly upgraded and much larger Starbug. However, the curry supplies have gone missing. So, Lister devises a sneaky plan which involves swapping Crichton's head, once again utilizing the time machine, which ultimately results in the crew getting mixed up in the assassination of President Kennedy in Dallas in 1963. Why does every show have a fucking bit that goes to the JFK assassination? Okay. Episode 2. Okami Clipper. Daredevil pilot Ace Rimmer, fatally wounded after rescuing Princess Bongella, travels from his own dimension into the dimension where Starbug is cruising. His intention is to try and bring out courage in the cowardly version of himself aboard Starbug, and then recruit Arnold Rimmer as his replacement. That is, after his death, another Rimmer will carry on the legacy of the interstellar space hero. Episode 3, Ouroboros. Lister, Cat, and Crichton stumble upon the tear of the fabric of space that leads to another dimension. There they meet a parallel version of Lister's old girlfriend, Christine who becomes stranded on Starbug. Meanwhile, Lister discovers the truth about himself and who his parents were. Episode 4, Duck Soup. Crichton gets fussy and jealous, thinking that Lister likes Kachansky better than him. The primary power goes off and they get stuck in a room. They have no choice but to climb into the small ventilation ducts which wind around Starbug in order to escape. Whilst inside the ducts, they discover a lot about each other, including the fact that Lister is claustrophobic. Episode 5, Blue. Starbug is traveling through a rather uninteresting region of space, and the crew are bored and begin to nitpick at the petty areas of their lives. Meanwhile, Lister finds, much to his own surprise and disgust, that he's missing Rimmer, and even having romantic dreams about him returning. Crichton's solution is to take him on a ride called the Rimmer Experience, which recounts outrageously fictionalized events from Rimmer's diaries. Episode 6 Beyond a Joke. After searching for a new head for Crichton, which exploded due to the buildup of negative thought after an incident involving ketchup added to lobster. The crew encounter a rogue simulant on a deserted ship. The simulant kidnaps Crichton and commissions one of his own droids, Abel, to fix him up. But Crichton and Abel discovered they are brothers. The same model, Abel helps Crichton escape. Crichton then discovers from Abel a disturbing secret about their creator. Episode 7 Epideme. The crew come across a frozen supply ship, the Leviathan, with one survivor, Caroline Carmen, one of Lister's former crushes. She revives in the middle of the night as a zombie, as she has been dead for a long time, and infects Lister with the dreaded epideme virus. Lister tries talking with the virus directly through a communication link. Epideme is a sentient, self-aware organism, but Epideme refuses to let Lister live. Drastic action must be taken if Lister is to survive. Episode 8 Nanarchy. Lister tries to cope with the loss of his arm. Meanwhile, Crichton searches for his nanobots, incredibly advanced, microscopic robots which can alter forms of matter at the subatomic level so that he can rebuild Lister's arm. Crichton finds the nanobots in Lister's laundry basket and also discovers that it was the nanobots who stored the mothership Red Dwarf in the first engine. Crichton gets the nanobots to rebuild both the Red Dwarf and Lister's arm. Red Dwarf makes an appearance, with one problem, its size. Red Dwarf 8, 1999. Having changed the look and format for Series 7, Naylor returned to the series' original roots for Series 8. Writing the scripts himself, Naylor resurrected the original crew of Red Dwarf, along with Holly, this time being played by Norman Lovett and Chris Berry as Rimmer. With the old cast and Red Dwarf itself now, the series returned to being videotaped in front of a studio audience, and ended on a cliffhanger that remained unresolved until 2009's Red Dwarf Back to Earth. With 52 episodes, the series was now in a good position for international syndication, and the prospect of a feature-length film increased. KTEH, a public broadcasting service station in San Jose, California, broadcast the entire series on 7th March of 1999. As a result, they broadcast the last 5 series of episodes of Series 8 before they were aired in the UK. Cassandra was also broadcast on other PBS stations on that date as well. Alright, Episode 1 of Series 8. Back in the Red, Part 1. The nanobots have rebuilt Red Dwarf to its original design plans. In effect, the fresh new Red Dwarf is better than the old version of the ship that the nanobots deconstructed in the first place. Faster, more streamlined, containing more advanced technology, which was not included the first time around due to budget cutbacks. After crashing Starbug at the docking bay, they discovered that nanobots have also resurrected the original crew complement of Red Dwarf who were killed in the radioactive disaster 3 million years previously, and who now have no memory of the incident or events following it. Lister tries to persuade the newly resurrected Arnold Rimmer to help him escape so that he can track down the nanobots to corroborate his story. But the only way for Lister to convince Rimmer is by helping Rimmer get promoted using a disk of confidential files left in the crashed wreckage of Starbug. Back in the Red, Part 2. Later, Lister, the cat, and Kochanski are in big trouble aboard the resurrected Red Dwarf with the freshly resurrected Captain Hollister, acted by Mac McDonald, and they find themselves standing trial for stealing and crashing a Starbug. Crichton is reprogrammed and has his factory settings restored, while Rimmer uses the confidential files and the luck and sexual magnetism viruses found in the wreckage of the Starbugs to get himself promoted in the field. Back in the Reg, Part 3. Lister, Kochansky, Cat, and Crichton flee Red Dwarf in a blue midget and try to find the nanobots to prove that their version of events is true. Rimmer intervenes to try and save his own neck and messes things up for all of them. Episode 4. Cassandra. Rimmer, Lister, Cat, Crichton, and Kochansky have been sentenced to 2 years in the tank on secretive floor 13 for stealing and crashing a Starbug and abusing confidential information during their trial in virtual reality. Lister signs up the gang for the Canaries, thinking it is the prison choir and enticed by the list of privileges that go with it. Lister is unaware that the Canaries is actually a convict army utilized for reconnaissance on uncharted planets. Their first assignment is to investigate an abandoned spaceship on an ocean planet where they discover Cassandra, acted by Goldie McEwen, a computer that can predict the future. However, it spells bad news for Rimmer when Cassandra predicts he is going to die. Okay. Episode 5. Crichton has been placed in the women's ring of the tank due to his lack of male genitalia. After making the mistake of revealing that he showers with the female prisoners, Crichton is reprogrammed by Kill Crazy, making him a ruthless and amoral entrepreneur. Crichton soon puts on Crichty TV, a private entertainment show for the prisoners, where he goes into the women's shower room and films the exposed naked bodies of the female prisoners, including Kochansky. What the fuck? Rimmer and Lister have been given a retrial, and Crichton endangers their only chance of freedom when he sets up Lister by getting him to mess up Governor Ackerman's sleeping quarters. Episode 6. Part 1. Rimmer and Lister are not having a good time, frequently in and out of Captain's office for offenses, each of which annoy Hollister more and more until he snaps and has him thrown in the hole, a sparse prison cell inhabited only by an insane Welshman called Birdman and his pet sparrow Pete. Meanwhile, the others return from a Canaries mission with the Time Wand, a device that can manipulate time. Episode 7. Pete Part 2. Lister and Rimmer drive Captain Hollister ever closer to a nervous breakdown. Crichton discovers a time wand he can regress a living creature back into what it revolved form, and turns Baxter and Kill Crazy into apes. He also accidentally regresses Pete, Birdman's pet sparrow, into a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which then goes on a rampage around Red Dwarf and eats the Birdman, along with the time wand. With the rest of the crew frozen in time, Rimmer, Lister, Crichton, Kochansky, the Cat, and Holly attempt to find a solution before the freeze wears off. Episode 8. An escape pod containing a genetically engineered virus that eats metal arrives on Red Dwarf and begins to destroy the ship. Left on Red Dwarf to die, Rimmer, Lister, Cat, Crichton, Kochansky, and Holly find that their only chance at finding an antidote is to create a mirror universe where everything is opposite. Rimmer is sent into the mirror universe to find the antidote before Red Dwarf is destroyed. In the mirror universe, Rimmer finds what he has always wanted. He is no longer a lowly technician, but the captain of the ship. Okay. Red Dwarf, Back to Earth, 2009. In 2009, UK TV channel Dave screened 3 new 25-minute specials to celebrate the 21st anniversary of the show. The new episodes form part of an effort by Dave to screen more original programming instead of just repeats. The specials were made up of a 3-part story, Back to Earth, as well as a making of spatial. God damn. Originally, there were to be 2 episodes, a making of and a live show titled Red Dwarf Unplugged. However, according to Robert Llewellyn on Twitter, the live show had been cancelled due to time and money, and that there would be 3 episodes instead. As with Series 7, the episodes were not filmed in front of a live audience. However, like the 7th series, it was shown to an audience at a later date to record the audience laughter. And they named them very well, as you can see, Back to Earth Part 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Alright, Red Dwarf 10, 2012. Red Dwarf returned for its first full series since 1999 in October 2012 for 6 new episodes written by Doug Naylor, filmed before a live audience. It was released on DVD and Blu-ray on 19th of November 2012. All 4 original cast members from Back to Earth reprised their roles. Episode 1 was Trojan, 2 Fathers and Sons, 3 Lemons, 4 Entangled, 5 Dear Dave, 6 The Beginning. Okay. Now, Red Dwarf 11, 2016. Confirmed on the 2nd of May 2015 that an 11th and 12th series of Red Dwarf, consisting of 6 episodes each, would be filmed in late 2015 and early 2016 for Dave. After the announcement, Craig Charles resigned his role on Coronation Street to focus on filming for both the new series. Red Dwarf 11 began broadcast in September 2016. Okay. First episode is Quintica. The Red Dwarf team return, visiting an alternative universe on early 20th century Earth. The crew have to balance being separated and half stranded in a world where modern technology is strictly banned. Second episode, Samsara. Red Dwarf team finds an ocean moon and begins to discover not all of it is as it seems on the ocean floor, nor in the ship itself, where a nefarious force exerted power over them. Episode 3, Give and Take. A derelict-looking ship is boarded, only to find an insane medical droid on board. The droid harvests Lister's kidneys and leaves him stuck asking the only genetically similar creature available for an organ donation, the group's most selfish member, Cat. Alright, episode 4. Responding to a distress call from a doomed ship, the Red Dwarf crew rescue the only remaining survivor, a bioprinted captain. Rimmer inadvertently saves him from certain death, earning the promotion he had always dreamed of. Bioprinter and a ship full of Rimmers. What could possibly go wrong? Right? Crisis. This is episode 5. When Crichton starts acting oddly and suddenly changes his chassis to a burly Rosso Red, the group... What? A burly Rosso Red. The group wonder what's wrong. What does this mean? A robotic midlife crisis is the cause. To cheer up Crichton and prove how far he has come, the team take him to see an older droid model named Butler in the hope of showing Crichton how he has evolved. Unfortunately, all is not as it seems, and their plan only makes matters worse. Episode 6, Can of Worms. A ship crewed by a single mechanoid mercenary and carrying 1 hostage is heading towards a black hole. The crew leap to the rescue. Upon rescuing the hostage, the crew discovers that she is not all that she appears, with dire consequences, especially for a very enamored cat. Red Dwarfs 12, 2017. Episode 1. Cured. The crew discovered a research center where evil has been eradicated. They are bombarded by carbon copies of the infamous historical figures Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Vlad the Impaler, and Valeria Messalina, who are now cured of all evil and loving life. Episode 2. Siliconia. A rogue ship full of mechanoids that have rebelled against their programming to seek freedom finds the crew. They free Crichton and begin to integrate him into their leisurely world. They transfer the minds of Rimmer, Lister, and Katz into droids who begin to lose their human attributes the longer they stay in their new metal bodies. Episode 3. Time Wave. After the crew discover, name, and take soil samples from a helium-7 rich moon, planet Rimmer, Starbug is hit by a time wave, bringing them into contact with 24th century ship the SS Inconium. However, there are 2 problems. The ship is set on a collision course with planet Rimmer. Upon the ship, all forms of criticism are punishable by life imprisonment, or draining. Episode 4. Mechocracy. After learning they have no rights or status, the machines on Red Dwarf go on strike and demand a voice. The presidential elected is held between Rimmer and Crichton to look after their rights, with Lister helping Crichton and Cat being blackmailed into helping Rimmer. In order to get the swing vote and save the ship from Rimmer's tyranny, Lister is forced to make peace with his other greatest nemesis. Episode 5. M-Core. The crew discovers their employer, Jupiter Mining Corporation, has been bought out by a corporate giant with unusual views on product usage. Episode 6. Skipper. Rimmer gets hold of a quantum skipper and skips his way across the multiverse looking for a dimension where he is not such a giant loser. That... Yikes. Okay. Alright, Red Dwarf, The Promised Land, 2020. UK TV announced in October 2019 that a feature-length special would see a production to air in 2020. Alright, so episode 74 and the final episode, The Promised Land. The posse meet 3 cat clerics who worship Lister as their god. Lister vows to help them as they're being hunted by Rodon, the ruthless feral cat leader who has vowed to wipe out all cats who worship anyone but him. What? Okay. Unproduced scripts. Body Snatcher. Originally to be the second episode of Series 1 and would have involved Rimmer going insane trying to deal with his intangibility and attempting to build himself a new body by stealing parts of Lister's, and Lister trying to live with a hologram of himself. The former idea was, in a way, used in the episode Body Swap in Series 3, and latter became the basis for Me Squared, with the plotline transformed from Lister to Rimmer, which filled the 6th spot in the first series after Body Snatcher was dropped. Dad. Dad was planned as the first episode of the show's 3rd series, intended to be a direct continuation of the preceding episode, Parallel Universe, the final episode of the 2nd series. It was never filmed or even fully scripted. Writers Rob Grant and Doug Naylor abandoned it halfway through writing it. Instead, a comically fast Star Wars opening crawl provided exposition for the episode backwards, which became the new Series 3 premiere. An extract of the unfinished script of Dad was included on the DVD release Red Dwarf, The Body Snatcher Collection, alongside several other such extracts. In the same style as the infamous lost episode Body Snatcher, the extract of Dad was animated in a storyboard style as the script itself was read aloud by lead actor Chris Berry, who, being a skilled impressionist, supplied the voices of all the characters. In Parallel Universe, Lister had slept with a female version of himself while in a parallel dimension and learned that he was pregnant. Since in that parallel dimension it was the men who bare children, Dad was to primarily deal with Lister's pregnancy, why former guest character Crichton had reappeared and become a regular member of the cast, and what had happened to him, why Holly's image had changed from a male to a female. The release script extract shows that Dad would not have followed the pre-credit sequence of backwards to the letter. For example, Lister would not have been pregnant with twins. Instead, he would give birth to a single son. Also, apparently Lister would have rebuilt Crichton while heavily pregnant and not shortly afterwards, as the pre-title backwards scroll suggests. Additionally, unless male Holly actor Norman Lovett was to make a guest appearance in the episode, it is likely that Holly would have first appeared as a female at the very beginning of the episode. The script was ultimately rejected by the show's writers and producers Rob Grant and Doug Naylor, who felt that the script was not as funny as previous episodes. In the Red Dwarf program guide, Chris Hallworth and Steve Lyons write that another reason Dad was rejected because it was possibly sexist. Jokes from the script were worked into other episodes. For example, Lister's revealing that he was abandoned at birth, and Rimmer's subsequent speculation that Lister was the product of a brother-sister incest was written into the episode The Last Day. Alright, Identity Within. This episode was going to be in Series 7, but was replaced by Duct Soup for budgetary reasons. A reconstructed version of the episode, read by Chris and Barry, appears on Series 7 DVD release. The cat is fatally ill with only one cure. He has to have sex. They travel to Delph Village, where a female cat called Aura is being held prisoner for auction. Lister, Rimmer, and Crichton have to save Aura and get her to fall in love with Cat before he dies from being a virgin. These events are loosely revisited in the series 9 finale Can of Worms, where it's revealed that the cat is a virgin and ends up losing his virginity to a polymorph disguised as a fellow cat. Alright, feature film. Once Series 7 ended in 1999, Doug Naylor attempted to make a feature-length film of the show. Version of the show. A script was written by Naylor, and flyers began circulating around certain websites. The flyer outlined the movie's plot, set in the distant future where the Homo sapienoids, a fearsome flesh machine hybrid race, had taken over the solar system and were wiping out the human race. Spaceships that tried to escape Earth were hunted down until only one remained, Red Dwarf. Pre-production began in 2004 and filming was planned for 2005. However, sufficient funding was not forthcoming and production was put on hold. American pilots. Two versions of a pilot episode for a proposed NBC version of Red Dwarf were produced in 1992. A complete episode and a partial episode with different cast members. Neither version aired, though excerpts from the first pilot episode appeared on the Red Dwarf 5 DVD set. Holy shit.